Welcome to Certif AI Innovation News.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Mr. Ash, and with me today is Mrs. Alex.
Hello.
You know, Mrs. Alex, it's really been on my mind lately.
Oh, yeah.
All the recent tragedies, like the earthquake in Myanmar.
It's just heartbreaking
It really is, and it makes you think, if there was a way,
to, get some kind of heads up.
exactly, like even a little bit of warning could make such a difference.
Absolutely. Lives could be saved.
And it's funny because I was reading this article just the other day about a dog in Japan.
Oh, right before the big one in 2011.
Yeah, Shiba Inu, apparently.
Those are so cute, but they can be a little yappy, right?
Well, this one was normally really quiet, but for weeks before the earthquake,
Oh.
it was just going crazy, like barking all night trying to drag its owners outside.
Wow. Like it knew something was up.
It's like they have this sixth sense,
You hear so many stories about animals acting strange before natural disasters.
It's fascinating. It kind of makes you wonder if we could tap into that somehow
What if we could understand what they're sensing?
and use that to give ourselves a bit more time to prepare.
That's what we're going to be looking into today.
Exactly. We're doing a deep dive into a brand new AIoT system,
It's called the Certif AI Pet Collar.
and it's designed specifically for early earthquake warning.
That's right. We're going to try to break down how it works.
So for those who might not be familiar with all this tech jargon,
Right, let's start simple.
what is this AIoT system in a nutshell?
We'll think of it as like a network that's constantly listening to our pets.
Okay, so it's more than just a simple pet tracker then.
Oh, yeah, much more. There are three main parts to the system.
All right, wave on me.
So first, you've got the collars themselves. They have all sorts of sensors in them to pick up on the pet's activity and well-being.
So the collars are like the eyes and ears of the system.
Exactly, and then all that information. It gets sent wirelessly to a central computer system.
Okay, the brain of the operation.
Exactly. It's like this central hub where all the data comes together.
Makes sense? And then what?
Well, that's where the third part comes in the smart algorithms.
Ah, AI. So it's not just collecting data, it's actually interpreting it.
Right. The algorithms are constantly analyzing the data, looking for any patterns or anomalies. And if something unusual pops up that could indicate an earthquake,
Then boom, we get an alert.
precisely.
So we're essentially turning our furry friends into little earthquake detectors.
In a way, yes, it's like giving them a voice we can understand.
That's amazing. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into these smart collars.
Yeah, let's get specific.
What kind of sensors are we talking about here?
Well, each collar has a few key sensors that work together. First, there's an accelerometer, kind of like what you have in your smartphone.
Ah, so it tracks movement.
Yep. It can tell if the pet is running, playing resting, or maybe acting a little restless.
Got it. And what else?
Then there's a heart rate sensor. You know how your heart beats faster when you're stressed or excited?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's the same for animals. A sudden spike or a prolonged change in heart rate could be a sign of anxiety, which could be connected to an impending earthquake.
Interesting. So we're looking at both physical activity and their internal state.
Exactly. We're trying to get a complete picture of the animal's well-being.
And I think you mentioned a microphone too.
That's right. The microphone picks up on any unusual vocalizations, like excessive barking or meowing, whimpering, things like that.
So basically anything that's out of the ordinary for that specific pet.
Exactly, because what's normal for one dog might be unusual for another.
And the AI would be able to differentiate between those individual quirks.
That's the goal. The AI is designed to learn each pet's baseline behavior.
Fascinating. So all these sensors are constantly gathering data about our pets.
Yeah, think of it like a stream of information flowing from the collar.
But how does that data actually get to that central computer system?
Okay, so the first step is pretty straightforward. The collar uses Bluetooth to send the data to a nearby device.
Like the owner's smartphone.
Exactly. The phone then acts as a relay, using its cellular connection to transmit the data to the main system.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about in areas with limited or unreliable network coverage?
That's a great question, and it's something we've thought a lot about.
Because, like in parts of Myanmar after the earthquake?
Yeah, communication networks can be severely disrupted.
So is the data just lost in those situations?
Not at all. The collars are designed to store data locally.
Oh, so even if there's no connection, the caller keeps recording.
Exactly. It's like a little backup system. And as soon as the connection is restored, all that stored data is sent to this central hub.
Wow, that's clever. So even in disaster areas, the system can still function.
That's the idea. We want it to be as resilient as possible.
And are there any other backup plans in the works?
Well, we're also looking into something called mesh networking.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. What is it?
So imagine if the callers could talk to each other directly.
Oh, like create their own mini network.
Exactly. They could relay data from one caller to the next until it eventually reaches a point where it can be transmitted to the main system.
That's incredible, like a chain of communication.
It's still in the early stages of development, but it has huge potential.
I can see that. So the data collection part seems pretty solid.
Yeah, we've put a lot of thought into making it reliable and adaptable.
But here's the million-dollar question. How does the AI actually tell the difference between, let's say, my dog barking at the mailman
Uh-huh.
and a genuine pre-earthquake signal?
That's where the AI really shines. It's all about pattern recognition.
Okay, but animals can be unpredictable.
True, but they also have their own routines and habits.
So the AI looks for deviations from those established patterns.
Precisely, it's about noticing subtle changes that might indicate something is wrong. And the key here is that it learns each pet's individual baseline.
So it's not just about a generic set of earthquake behaviors.
No, not at all. It's personalized for each animal. Think of it like teaching the AI to read facial expressions.
I'm following you.
At first, it doesn't know what to look for. But we train it by feeding it massive amounts of data.
Like recordings of pets just doing their normal thing.
Exactly. Eating, sleeping, playing, interacting with their owners. And crucially, we also include data from pets that were experiencing earthquakes.
So the AI learns to distinguish between everyday behavior and earthquake-related behavior.
Yes, and even more importantly, it learns what changes in behavior might precede an earthquake.
So like if a normally calm cat suddenly starts pacing and vocalizing.
Exactly. And if that's accompanied by a spike in heart rate, then that cluster of unusual activity would be a red flag for the AI.
I see. So it's not just one sensor, it's the combination of multiple factors.
Right. It's about looking at the whole picture, the individual pet's behavioral fingerprint,
That makes a lot of sense. So the AI is constantly comparing the current data.
to that established baseline for each pet.
And if there's a significant deviation,
Boom, we get an alert.
that's really cool. But let's talk about the practicalities for a moment.
Sure.
You know, a country like Myanmar is incredibly diverse,
It's absolutely.
with varying levels of technology access.
Right.
So how can this system realistically work for everyone?
That's a critical question, and inclusivity is a top priority for us.
Because not everyone has a smartphone or reliable internet.
Exactly. So we've had to come up with a multifaceted approach.
Okay, so what's the plan?
Well, in urban areas where smartphone penetration is high, we can rely on the pet owners' phones as the primary data hubs.
So the phone acts as both the data transmitter and the alert receiver.
Exactly. But in rural areas, we need a different strategy.
What are you thinking?
Well, we're partnering with local community centers and animal shelters. They can act as central points for receiving and disseminating alerts.
Oh, so even if people don't have smartphones, they can still get the warnings.
Exactly. We're also exploring the use of community radio networks. That way we can broadcast alerts to wider areas where individual phone ownership might be low.
That's great. So you're really trying to make this system accessible to everyone.
That's the goal. We want to reach as many people as possible.
This has been really insightful, Mrs. Alex. I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
It's been a great discussion.
But before we wrap up, can we just clarify one last thing?
Of course.
For those who are still a bit fuzzy on the terminology.
That AIoT thing, right?
Yeah, it's exactly. What does that actually mean in simple terms?
Okay, so AIoT stands for Artificial Intelligence of Things. It's basically about combining the power of connected devices with artificial intelligence.
So it's like giving a network of devices a brain.
That's a great way to put it. So the IoT part, that's the Internet of Things. It refers to all these physical devices like our pet collars.
Yeah.
They have sensors and software that allow them to collect and share data.
Right, so the callers are gathering information about the pets.
Exactly. And then the AI part, artificial intelligence, that's the brain that makes sense of all that data
So the AI is analyzing the information from the callers.
and looking for patterns that might indicate an earthquake.
So it's not just about collecting data, it's about understanding it and acting on it.
Precisely. That's the whole point of AIoT.
It's about making our devices smarter and more responsive.
Exactly.
I have to say, this is truly groundbreaking stuff.
It has the potential to revolutionize how we predict and prepare for earthquakes.
The thought that we could actually harness the power of AI
And the unique insights of our animal companions.
to create a system that could potentially save countless lives.
It's an incredibly exciting prospect.
It really is, and it's not just about the technology itself.
Right, it's about collaboration.
Bringing together researchers, developers, animal experts, and communities.
To work towards a common goal.
It's a reminder that innovation often comes from unexpected places.
And that by working together, we can achieve incredible things.
Mrs. Alex, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Certif AI pet collar and the incredible world of AIoT for earthquake early warning. Until next time, this is Certif AI Innovation News signing off.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.